I tell you these things as they happened. It's not always pretty. There are things I could, and perhaps should, have omitted. But it's the truth, the whole damn lot of it. And the fact of the matter is that I was there from the start. From the very moment the first shooting star struck down on Horsell Common.
Ogilvy? Is that you down there?
Ah, Mr. Dent. I was beginning to think you weren't coming.
What the bloody hell is that thing?
I have no idea.
The entire population of Woking went out to the common that day to gawk at the strange spectacle, but it was clear to anyone who laid eyes on it that this was no space rock. Its surface was shining white metal, its shape perfectly cylindrical. No, this thing had been made, clear as day, and it only became more obvious as the top opened up and the inhabitants emerged. Those who've never seen a living Martian can scarcely imagine the strange horror of their form. Squid-like monsters the size of bears, with oily brown skin that seemed to pulsate as they breathed. Still, Ogilvy reasoned that they must be intelligent, and that the only course of action was to communicate. Thus, he formed a deputation and approached the cylinder. As they got close to the pit, a strange rotating mirror was raised up from within. Ogilvy called out,
"Hello!"
but got no response. Then, In the blink of an eye, Horsell Common became an inferno. Burst into flame as the Martians unleashed an intense beam of heat. The rest of us ran, desperate to escape this leaping death. They had swatted us away like flies, only caring to be left alone while they worked. On what? I was about to find out. I turned and saw with my own eyes as a metal giant rose above the common, a monstrous fighting machine on a tripod stand. I jumped in a ditch for cover as it walked over me, and I watched helplessly as it headed for the town. Hanging from it, by an articulate steel rope, was the heat ray. When I finally dared continue, I found Woking town a smoking ruin. Nothing had been spared, not even my neighbour's greenhouse, but curiously I saw no bodies. But I did see him, sitting on a bench in front of the now ruined church, staring blankly ahead. He was a curate, his short blonde hair once well kept, but now scruffy and singed.
How could this happen? What have we done? Is this his punishment?
It's an invasion.
1 second all was as it should. The next, fire, earthquake, death. What do we do now?
We can't stay here, that's for sure. They'll be back. We decided that the safest bet was to make for London. Slowly, we made our way out of Woking, keeping an eye on the horizon at all times, and by midday we'd caught up with the crowd. The road to Weybridge was a mess, as the army tried in vain to control the torrent of refugees. That night, we saw a shooting star strike down in the direction of Perford. It was the second cylinder, the second of many. We awoke to the sound of gunfire, and the soldiers quickly started to herd the refugees into the centre of Weybridge. The Martians were coming, but Britain was ready. Soon 100 guns were aimed towards Woking, as she prepared to make her stand. Machines appeared on the horizon, and the artillery answered in full. The deafening cacophony of battle filled the air as the heat ray burned Weybridge to the ground. The army fought well, but it was useless. We jumped in the river and swam for our lives as resistance to the Martians crumbled around us. There were other battles, of course. We could hear them sometimes in the days that followed, but they grew fewer and further between, and eventually the guns fell silent altogether. We continued on our journey toward London, if only because we didn't know what else to do. By now, a sinister strain of Martian vegetation had begun to spread out from their landing sites, and the waters of the Thames were being choked by red, cactus-like fronds. Martian chasing some people over a field. It didn't burn them. Instead, it caught them in its steel ropes and tossed them in a giant basket on its back.
It's seen us! Run!
Lord, have mercy on us. But why? Why was it taking them?
I don't know. Perhaps they have some purpose for us. Unfortunately, I was right. We'd taken refuge in an abandoned cottage, only to be shut in as the Martians set up camp right outside. There, we saw with our own eyes as they took these captured humans and drained the fresh, living blood from their veins. They were feeding on them, drinking them.
Oh God, God! No God of mine would allow this.
Shut up! They'll hear you.
These are the wages of our sin, divine retribution for all that we've done unto our
No matter what I did, he wouldn't quiet down, praying and raving incoherently. I had no choice. His cries would have betrayed us. I fumbled around in the darkness, and my hand found a frying pan.
Woe unto the inhabitants of the earth! Woe!
It was another week before I dared to leave the cottage. By then the Martians had long since abandoned their camp, and I hadn't seen a sign of them for several days. By the time I staggered into London, the great city was all but deserted. The empty windows of the burned houses seemed to stare down at me. They knew what I'd done, and they were judging me. I felt no fear as I saw the fighting machines standing on Primrose Hill. I felt nothing at all as I approached them. I knew that this was the end. Then, suddenly, I noticed the birds. They were circling the machines, pecking on shreds of red meat hanging out of their cowls. At first I just stared at them, too exhausted and famished to realize their significance. Then my heart made a bound, and I started running down the street. I ran toward the machines, scarcely daring to believe what I was seeing. They weren't moving, just standing there. As I turned a corner, I saw another one, lying in the street as though it had fallen, but there was no sign of it being shot. I clambered up the hill, nothing in my heart but a wild exultation, and there, at the foot of the first machine, most of them lined up in a row, were the Martians. Dead. My memory ends there. I've been told that I danced down the street, laughing and singing that I was the last man on earth. I wasn't, of course, but I must have been one of the first to witness the fate of our invaders. By the time I found them, they'd already been dead for days, but no one had dared go close enough to notice. They had crushed the mightiest nation on earth in a week. They'd routed her armies and razed her cities, only to be brought down by simple earthly diseases against which their immune systems were unprepared. Yes, after all man's devices had failed, the Martians were killed by the humblest creatures that God had put on the earth: bacteria. But as life returns to England, I must warn that we do not again grow so complacent and assured of our empire over matter. It may be that across the gulf of space, our adversaries have learned their lesson and even now await their next opportunity. Perhaps it is to them and not to us that the future is ordained.